Rhythm Heaven is probably one of my favorite series of all time, and there's a reason for that. It does stuff that other rhythm games don't. You know, it has concepts in it that make complete sense to a musician or someone who understands music theory, but remains accessible to people who don't know how to play, make, or read music at all. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to teach people music and music theory through Rhythm Heaven. And I think it's a great teaching tool, and I think it'll let me explain concepts a lot more clearly, especially with regards to, you know, rhythm and beats. Rhythm Heaven does very, very cool stuff, and I really want to show that off to people, and maybe teach a thing or two along the way. But, you know, let's get right into it. We're going to start a new game as, let's see, Grandpa. Why not? There's a bunch of them, but I like Grandpa. And then it throws us into this kind of like, you know, beginning tutorial sequence. I don't know whether it's to like actually make sure your buttons are working and to introduce you to the concept of the game, or if it's like to calibrate your TV. It's probably both. Or maybe I'm overestimating this game and it doesn't know how to calibrate your TV at all. But this is pretty basic stuff. I probably won't explain too much about it. You gotta hit A to the beat. And to be honest, this beginning tutorial section is probably harder than the actual game. And hey, I didn't do too bad. I was a little early on the first one, a little late on the last one, but hey, could be a lot worse. But yeah, I won't get into the nitty-gritty right now. We'll get into that a little later. Press A when the timer reaches 0. So this is just testing whether or not you you can keep the beat, if I can speak. And sometimes the count will drop out, so you have to keep track in your head. And that's what rhythm's all about. So, you know, didn't do as good that time, but could be worse. And like I said, this tutorial section is actually pretty difficult and not really indicative of the main game at all. So you just have to trust me on that. There are actually 50 games in total. There's some extra games, there's some endless stuff you get by doing medals, which you get medals by doing very well on a single minigame. I'll hopefully try to get medals on everything, but there might be a couple I missed just because I'm not perfect. But hey, hit A and B at the same time. You know how to do that, right? Dude makes a weird noise when you do that. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit, his reaction. Yeah, here we are. Here we are in the actual game. We are Grandpa, we have 0 flow, we have 0 medals, and we only have one game open right now, hole in one, but let's get right into it. But before we do, I want to go over some real basic concepts, just to break down what music is, and to explain some terminology I'll be using later. Now, you probably know most of this stuff already because you're smart and I love you, but just in case, I'm going to show you this. This is a music scale, and has a lot of elements you've probably seen before. First, let's go over what these lines mean. A note will be either on a line or space, and each one denotes a certain note, from A to G. There's a lot of mnemonics to learn which line and space is what note, and I still use the ones I learned in elementary school. This right here is the clef. It tells you what register and pitch you're in, basically what sort of group of notes you're looking at. For the most part, you'll be looking at this one, a treble clef, or G clef, because it circles G right there on the scale. You see that? There's also the just as common bass clef, or F clef, and the somewhat less common C clef. But for the purposes of what I'll be talking about in Rhythm Heaven, you shouldn't worry about it too much. The clef doesn't really come up in terms of rhythm and beats. It's more pitch. Now, this is the time signature, and this is important, so much so I'll only talk a little bit about it now and then circle back around and talk more about it in detail later. Basically, the top number tells you how many beats are in a measure. A measure is a basic building block of music notation. And the bottom number tells you what note is considered a beat. It could be a quarter note, it could be a half note, it could be a whole note. 4/4 time is the most common time signature, so much so that it's sometimes just called common time and is replaced with a C instead if you don't want to draw two 4s stacked up on each other. You just draw a C. People will know what you're talking about. It means there are 4 beats in a measure, and a quarter note is a beat. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy stuff. So, with all of that in mind, you understand basic music notation now. Let's get into the first game, and I'll talk more about the beat of that specific game. So, before every minigame, you get a little tutorial beforehand. I won't really show most of these because a lot of the games are self-explanatory and I can sum it up in like 1 or 2 sentences. But it's the first game, so I'll include the first tutorial as well, because the first tutorial is a little bit more involved than the others. So the basic concept of this one is that a monkey throws a ball at you, you gotta hit it into the hole, and it'll be set to music. So you do it a couple times without any cues, and then it'll show you some cues, and we're gonna count to 4, and we're gonna hit it on 3. I'll do it one more time so I can count, please. 1, 2, 3. And then the 4 doesn't matter. Don't worry about the 4. 4 come later. 1, 2, 3. So this is 4/4 time, just like I was talking about. And now we got this guy. He's a mandrill. Again, he'll throw some test shots at you without any cues. But then the music will come in later. He's like, dude, you can't do it like that. We need music. It's hard to hit the ball even though he did 3 times in a row. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to count from 1 to 3, and we're going to hit on 3. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. So both prompts in this game are the same. It's all on the 3rd beat, when the first beat is them making their first audio cue. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We always hit on 3. So if you count to yourself during the actual game, always hit on 3. Now there are some later that he throws a little bit faster, you're going to hit a little bit faster than on 3 every time, but you'll see. 1, 2, 3. So you kind of get the gist of this. This is the first game, so it's not the most complicated of them. Now here's Vandrel coming up. 1, 2, 3. Just the same. Now he's throwing a little bit faster now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We can do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get the hang of counting and breaking it down into, easy to count beats, like 1 to 2 or 1 to 4, it's a lot easier to nail these. And these are just quarter notes we're dealing with here. We haven't gotten into eighth notes or anything fancy like that. That might come up a little bit later. But for now, it's easy going. And that's the first game, no problem. So if you do well enough, you get a superb. So here we have the second game, Screwbot Factory. I skipped the practice on this one because it's pretty simple. These robots come up and you have to screw their heads in to the beat, of course. And we're gonna start to count to 3 again. So you'll see it right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So we're counting to 3 again. But the extra wrinkle is that we have these little robots, which only need 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. So you see where this one is going. Again, pretty easy. It's only the second game out of 50, so we got plenty of time to ramp up the difficulty. But these are good introductions, I think. And again, a superb. There are 3 rankings. You can either do bad, you can get an okay, or you can get a superb.